You haven't experienced true happiness until you have found yourself situated 5 inches away from the TV, playing Little Big Planet on your chunky, loud PS3. There's just something so beautiful about that. I'd come home from school, do all my chores, and earn myself enough time to play the family PS3 for as long as I want. Alright, I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but what I'm trying to say is Little Big Planet was truly something special. And whilst the height of its heyday may never return, let's look fondly at what it was in the past. This is the simple beauty of Little Big Planet. I can't actually play a lot of the soundtrack because it's copyrighted, so enjoy my rendition of Left Bank 2. This video will primarily be discussing the first game in the franchise, and how it was one of the first sparks in the rise of user-generated content. So, before we arrive at the Bora Bora Islands, or best Mortal Kombat level ever, let's take a brief trip into the history of the game and even the creation of Sackboy. Our story begins with Ragdoll Kung Fu, a physics-based fighting game developed in 2005 by Lionhead Studios. I promise this is relevant, presumably after the Microsoft buyout of Lionhead Studios in 2006. Ex-employees Mark Healy, Alex Evans, and Dave Smith were left unemployed, with very little to do on their plates. That was until they secured a pitch meeting with Sony, in which they utilised a physics engine turned 2D platformer called Craft World. Of course, as we know, the pitch meeting was successful, and the newly formed Media Molecule could actively start development on what would eventually turn into Little Big Planet. God, what I'd do to earn a sweepstakes dinner with Stephen Fry. So, how does Ragdoll Kung Fu come into all of this? Well, there were 2 aspects of this game that the developers really enjoyed, which was the physics of the world, whose influence you can clearly see is in Little Big Planet, and more importantly, the UGC, which stands for User-Generated Content. We'll get more onto that very shortly. Onto the character of Sackboy, just this little fella. The core idea of Sackboy was to make its design as applicable to UGC as possible, allowing the user to design and express him in however they'd want. So with that in mind, the character started out as a yellow and purple box, before eventually becoming into something that was a lot more craft-like, or sack-like. As each set of concept art was created and prototypes were created, we slowly got to see what would eventually become Sackboy. And so, in 2008, Little Big Planet was released to the public. I remember being glued to the screen playing this game not only for its inbuilt levels, but also for the fun and not so original bomb survival levels. By the 57th one, you'd think they'd stop, but no, they just kept on coming! The story mode in Little Big Planet is actually really interesting, and not because it has some super in-depth lore or some really built-upon characters, but rather it's just the fact that these levels were all created in the same system that the users can create the levels in. And so theoretically the player base could recreate these levels themselves, which I would say is pretty inspiring. And as you'll see later on, oh man, people created some excellent levels. See, UGC was a fairly foreign concept within the gaming landscape in the early to mid 2000s, really taking off with games such as Little Big Planet and, of course, Minecraft. The very idea that users could use tools that were given to them in-game to create characters or even entire worlds was just amazing, and the technology to share them worldwide was becoming so much more apparent. However, I can already see you commenting, no, I'm not crediting Little Big Planet as being the first game to use UGC, but it definitely made it very accessible. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, Doom from 1993 could be considered a game that utilises UGC, as its software created somewhat user-friendly tools to create WAD. But you see, that's just the key. User-friendly. Little Timmy over here does not have the time to go searching through game files and scrolling through Reddit endlessly to see that his VTech laptop cannot run Thomas the Tank Engine's Skyrim mod. I was Little Timmy. I'd actually love to make a video about UGC entirely within the gaming landscape, so if you want to see a video on that, comment down below. With all that out the way, let's take a look at some of my favourite user-created LittleBigPlanet levels. Shark survival levels. Oh my goodness, these were abundant. With the introduction of water within the Pirates of the Caribbean level pack, came along the introduction of shark survival levels, in which these robotic shark creations would chase the player endlessly until they died. And for as repetitive as these got, my god they were fun. Oh, and you can't forget the ever-iconic Bora Bora Islands. I remember playing this level endlessly, again and again and again, although I didn't actually know that there was an ending to this level. I especially loved this basketball section on the Bora Bora Islands. It really scratched my 9-year-old brain. And I'm not the only one. I mean, if you look at comment sections and the playthroughs of these levels, you'll find people endlessly reminiscing on how they really enjoyed these levels. However, the level that touched me the most, the level that made me the man who I am today, was best Mortal Kombat level ever, baby! Okay, so technically that level was in LittleBigPlanet 2, which I will get on to discuss later on down the line. But I think what I'm trying to get across here is that LBP was such a simple title. We were given the tools to create and share, and that's exactly what we did. I hold all of these games really fondly in my heart, and honestly, the hours I spent on them will never be forgotten. And genuinely, if it wasn't for the creativity that this game inspired, I don't think I'd be here making videos right now. Anyway, thank you for watching. I know this isn't a Sonic video, but I hope you enjoyed. If you'd like me to branch out from Sonic and talk about other games, or entirely other concepts within the gaming landscape, let me know. I'm up for any suggestions that you comment down below and I will reply. Don't worry, Sonic videos are still coming. Alright, bye for now.